Hey, did you know that the British Empire is partly responsible for the Israel-Palestine conflict that has been going on for decades? In this video, we will explore how the British Empire shaped the history and the fate of these two nations, and why they are still fighting today. But before we dive into the details, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of our latest videos. We upload new videos every week on topics that you need to know. Trust me, you don't want to miss them. Alright, let's get started. The story begins in the late 19th century, when a movement called Zionism emerged among some Jews in Europe. Zionism was a political and cultural ideology that advocated for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, the land where their ancestors lived thousands of years ago. Zionists believed that this would be the only way to escape the persecution and discrimination that they faced in Europe. However, Palestine was not an empty land waiting for the Jews to claim it. It was already inhabited by a majority of Arab Muslims and Christians who had their own history, culture, and identity. They called themselves Palestinians, and they considered Palestine their homeland too. So, how did the British Empire get involved in this mess? Well, it all started with World War I, when the British and the French fought against the Ottoman Empire, which controlled most of the Middle East, including Palestine. The British wanted to secure their interests in the region, especially the Suez Canal, which was a vital link to their colonies in Asia and Africa. They also wanted to gain the support of the Arabs and the Jews, who were both oppressed by the Ottomans. To win over the Arabs, the British promised them independence and self-rule in exchange for their help in fighting the Ottomans. This promise was made in a series of letters between the British diplomat Henry McMahon and the Arab leader Hussein of Mecca. These letters are known as the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence. To win over the Jews, the British issued a declaration in 1917, which stated that they viewed with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. This declaration was made by the British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour, and it is known as the Balfour Declaration. The problem was, the British made two contradictory promises to two different groups of people who both wanted the same piece of land. The British hoped that they could somehow reconcile the conflicting interests of the Arabs and the Jews and create a peaceful and prosperous region under their influence. But they were wrong. After World War I ended, the British and the French divided the Middle East into several territories, which they ruled as mandates under the League of Nations. Palestine became a British mandate, and the British had to deal with the rising tensions and violence between the Arabs and the Jews. The British tried to balance the demands of both sides, but they failed to satisfy either of them. The Arabs felt betrayed by the British, who did not honor their promise of independence and self-rule. They also resented the increasing immigration of Jews to Palestine, which they saw as a threat to their land and rights. The Jews felt frustrated by the British, who limited their immigration and land purchase, and did not protect them from the Arab attacks. They also wanted to establish their own state, which they saw as their only hope for survival and security. The situation became worse in the 1930s and 1940s, when the rise of Nazism and the Holocaust in Europe drove more Jews to seek refuge in Palestine. The Arab revolt and the Jewish resistance against the British also intensified, leading to more bloodshed and chaos. The British realized that they could not control the situation anymore, and they decided to hand over the problem to the United Nations. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two states, one for the Arabs and one for the Jews, with Jerusalem as an international city. The Jews accepted the plan, but the Arabs rejected it. They argued that the plan was unfair and unjust, as it gave more land and resources to the Jews, who were a minority in Palestine. They also claimed that the plan violated their right to self-determination and sovereignty. The UN plan was never implemented, as the British withdrew from Palestine in 1948, leaving behind a power vacuum and a war. The Jews declared the establishment of the State of Israel, and the Arabs declared the establishment of the State of Palestine. However, the neighboring Arab countries did not recognize either of them, and they invaded Israel, hoping to destroy it and liberate Palestine. This was the first of many wars that would shape the Israel-Palestine conflict. The war ended with an armistice in 1949, but not with a peace treaty. Israel managed to survive and expand its territory, while Palestine lost most of its land and and became divided into two parts: the West Bank, which was occupied by Jordan, and the Gaza Strip, which was occupied by Egypt. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians became refugees, and many of them still live in camps today. The conflict continued with more wars, uprisings, negotiations, and violence, and it remains unresolved to this day. So, what do you think? How did the British Empire shape the Israel-Palestine conflict? And what can be done to end this conflict and achieve peace and justice for both sides? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you want to learn more about the history and the current situation of the Israel-Palestine conflict, check out our other videos on this topic. You can find the links in the description below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time on Did You Know?